Hi there, I'm Levi, and this is Ian. We are with launchandrelease.com, and today we're talking to Garrett Groman from Indiegogo.com, and we are going to find out what makes them awesome in the music crowdfunding space, and this is going to be really valuable and very exciting, so stick around. So let's jump into it. How's it going, Garrett?
Oh, so good. It's a lovely rainy day here in Manhattan, so nothing to complain about, really.
So you are now what at Indiegogo?
I'm head of music, whatever you want to call me. I mean, we're still not that great at giving people official titles, but yes, I'm the head of music.
The interesting thing is that there is a head of music, which, before not too long ago, crowdfunding was just crowdfunding, and of course we've
Hmm.
struggled with trying to let people know that music crowdfunding is so different than just
Yeah,
crowdfunding. So it's awesome to see that there is a music vertical and it's treated differently there at Indiegogo.
totally. Yeah, we have a whole team, campaign specialists, myself, a couple of people that will work with campaigners to make sure not only, that we always have really cool campaigns live on the site, but beyond that, the campaigns that come to us that maybe I don't necessarily source or come in contact with, um, like before they launch, still have the best experience that they can have.
Awesome. So you've got some real world experience in music, and you've been at Indiegogo for a couple years. You've got your
Hmm.
mind wrapped around crowdfunding pretty well. So we're excited. Let's sort of dive in to what it is like in a world of music crowdfunding, where sort of the three big players is Kickstarter and Indiegogo and Pledge Music. Today we want to flesh out what it is about you guys that you think makes you well suited to help musicians. And so one of the things we have visited with you about before today is the first thing I want to discuss, and it's something you said just before we got on. You have a culture that is specifically geared towards just making stuff happen for a musician.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about that and how you view yourselves as like fulfilling that role in a musician's day-to-day career?
Yeah, so Indiegogo was launched in 2008 around Sundance Film Festival. Little different mission, but the core of it, they wanted to. We had three founders, and they all came together. It, you know, their own interests and frustrations in fundraising via traditional methods. One had a creative project, one had like a personal cause project, and the other had a small business that he was working with. And they came together and they said, wouldn't it be awesome if there was just one place where anybody could go to raise money for anything, anytime they wanted, from anywhere in the world? So thus we got Indiegogo, which it sounds like a very lofty idea, and it's funny. Like on paper, it's very simple. Like, yeah, anybody could do it, but actually executing that is, you know, not the easiest task. We think we do it pretty well. But the whole Indiegogo's whole goal is to fund what matters to you. In the music category, there are so many different things that artists need money for, and only so many places for, traditionally speaking, for artists to bring in money. So, we see artists literally funding everything from, the albums, the music videos, and like documentaries that you see on a day-to-day basis. But beyond that, getting into like the personal cause stuff, we have Macklemore and Ryan Lewis run a campaign to raise awareness for HIV. Like HIV, basically the short story is Ryan Lewis's mother contracted HIV in a bad blood transfusion in the early 80s during some pregnancy complications, and there are still areas in the world that they're not testing blood that they're actually putting into people and for these diseases. So they started a project called the 30 and 30 project, and basically over the next 30 years they want to build 30 testing centers across the world, to make sure that this doesn't continue. On the other side of it, there's this band, Dessa. They were in like Buffalo, New York, I think, and they went in to grab food and came out, and somebody had drilled their locks out of their van and stole like $30,000 worth of computers and like medication and clothes and pretty much like everything except for the musical instruments, which is kind of ironic because I guarantee their trailer was full of way more money. But it's easier to steal, 6 MacBooks than it is a couple of, full stack amps and a drum kit. So they set a campaign. They got robbed on a Friday night. I believe their tour manager started a campaign partway through the night, and by Saturday afternoon, they were already contacting us to say, guys, we've already raised over $30,000 from our fans. Like, everything is going to be replaced and then some. We don't want any more money. How can we pull the plug on this early? So we had somebody, because we have a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week customer service team, get a hold of me. I got a hold of Doug, their manager, and we made it happen.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's cool. There's some cool, because it's an open platform and anybody can raise money for whatever they want. It really does, like, it's no longer under the limits of like, what do I think you should be able to raise money for? What does your label think you should be able to raise money for? It's really on. It allows artists the opportunity to like push the envelopes and try things and say, hey, maybe my fans will want this. Maybe they won't. You never know. So the best way to do it is to take it to the crowd.
Yeah. So you were just telling us this story about the second band that lost all their stuff, and it sounds like they were getting their money from the crowd to help replace that issue pretty quickly. How does Indiegogo work that way?
So how do we? I'm confused.
So you were telling us beforehand, and this is the thing that Ian and I are most excited about, which is you've got a couple different ways to set up your campaign.
Oh yes, yes.
Tell us about how. What you were telling us before is you can get your money as soon as it's coming in rather than waiting for.
Yeah, Indiegogo we have 2 funding models. We have fixed funding, which is like more traditional crowdfunding. The majority of the other crowdfunding platforms use this as their model. It's all or nothing, kind of go big or go home. You set a goal. If you reach your goal, you keep your money. If you don't reach your goal, the money is returned to your contributors or backers. Or so we also have an alternative funding method called flexible funding, and that basically is keep what you've raised model. It's our most popular funding model compared to the other one. I want to say it's like 96% of our campaigners are flexible funding. That being said, in the music department, at least from the campaigns that I'm able to interact with, I would say 99.9% of musicians run flexible funding campaigns. It's one of those things in the industry where it's like, you say you set a goal of $10,000 and you only raise $8,000. You can do a lot more with $8,000 than you can do with $0,000. You might have to bootstrap in, cut some corners here and there, but at the end of the day, like, you're still gonna be able to make a cool project happen for the most part. If it's something that you need $10,000 to blow up a car for a music video, and like that's how much it's gonna cost, and if you can't do it, you can't bring in the money, you can't blow up the car, then that would make sense to run a fixed funding campaign. But the cool thing with flexible funding is because Indiegogo processes payments via credit card and PayPal, and when you're running a flexible funding campaign, as the PayPal contributions come in, they're immediately deposited into your PayPal account, so you can kind of use the campaign to debit money out. And then the credit cards come like 7 to 10 business days after the end of your campaign.
So that's a pretty big differentiator, is that from the time you launch your project as a musician, anybody that pays with PayPal, even if they pay 10 minutes after you launched, then that goes to your PayPal account.
Correct.
Almost simultaneously. So they can literally be raising the money to make their album from moment one of launching their project versus having to wait till it's all over and the appropriate amount of days have gone by.
And we see this so much, really, with most artists that we talk to, is, it's rare that somebody's like, oh, I need all of this money by, within 10 days. But it's almost always the case that they, just because of logistics, had to book the studio time. And the studio time's coming up, and things get pushed back, and now they're in a bind. And so this is a scenario where you could easily raise enough money, especially with how projects go. That first 4 days, you could raise enough money to put that deposit down on the studio and take a deep breath. So this is a big deal.
No, it's great, and I mean, a lot of artists even too, like they'll use Indiegogo as a way to not only fund their album, but like run it like pre-sales and stuff like that through us as well. And it's nice to be able to print up all of these albums and get the vinyl working before a month after your campaign ends. It's cool to have like a head start on any of the funding, or like pay for the hotel or your phone bill or whatever it is that goes into being a musician. These random expenses. And in Dessa's case, for instance, they were able to. They didn't even miss a day on the tour. Like they had all of their stuff stolen, and they had at least $15,000 in their PayPal account the next morning. They might not have been able to buy everything back immediately. They had to wait, I guess, a week to get the rest of their funds. But like that will definitely gets you on the right path a lot quicker than having to wait for your campaign to be finished after the 30 days and then have another 2 weeks to see your funds.
Now, there's another loophole that I'm really excited about. I call it a loophole. Of course, it's just a feature for you guys. But this is a big deal. So give us the exact fee breakdown. So you've got flex funding versus not fixed. But with the flex funding, if you do hit your goal, you pay a much lower percentage. Can you give us that breakdown?
Correct. So this is how it works. So if you run a campaign on Indiegogo, fixed funding or flexible funding, if you reach your target, Indiegogo takes 4%. Our payment processors take about 3%. With fixed funding, if you don't hit your goal, the money goes back. It's a no harm, no foul. There's never any money that's been exchanged between you and your fans, so you don't have to worry about it. If you are running a flexible funding campaign and you don't hit your target, Indiegogo takes 9%. This is just to encourage our artists to set realistic goals, work their campaigns. I think that, I'm sure you guys experience this a lot. Everybody wants like 50 grand to do an album, and in reality, the majority of artists don't necessarily need $50,000 to record a solid album. But for whatever reason, 50 grand sounds nice. So I think that by encouraging people to set more realistic targets, rather than like this pie in the sky that they're hoping that they might be able to reach, it makes campaigns better. People are more excited. I'm sure you guys notice what we call the green bar effect. People pay attention to the percentage of the campaign that has been funded. So if you have a campaign that's raised, if you have two campaigns, the exact same campaign, both of them have $10,000 in funds raised. One has a goal of $100,000. One has a goal of $15,000. The one with $15,000 looks a lot better, and your fans are going to be more excited about it. Strangers that come along, people want to back winners. They're going to see that this has a good shot, and their money is going to. They validate where their money is going to. I think that it's really tough to get people to pull out their wallets, especially as a musician, for anything. And in order to, I think the best way to encourage people to do that is by having a validated project. And I think a very smart thing you can do is just set a reasonable goal and knock it out of the park. I think that it's way easier or it's a cooler story to double your goal than it is to make it 50%.
And it's a lot safer to do that too.
Totally. Yeah, so, and you get the price break too.
So to recap, it's 4% plus processing fees, which is you could assume is around 3% or something, or 9%, or 9% plus processing fees.
Correct, and the cool thing is once you've hit your target with us, your flexible funding target, you're going to get the bonus 5% back that we've collected, and for the remainder of your campaign, Indiegogo is going to take 4%. So at the end of the day, you raise $100,000 on Indiegogo. If your goal is 100 grand, Indiegogo is going to take 4,000. Payment processor is going to take about 3,000, so 97% right there to you. I'm sorry, 93%. With if you raise 100,000 and your goal is 101,000, Indiegogo is going to take 9%. Payment process will take about 3%. So it's that's how it works.
Okay, so there are some implications to what you were talking about. I think when somebody pledges, and especially Indiegogo collects that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not even a pledge; it's a contribution, is what you were saying, right? And
Yep.
so, if somebody's like bank account or credit card number changes later in your campaign, does that affect how the musician collects money or not?
Not on Indiegogo, no. This is, I think, one of the less sexy parts of crowdfunding, but it is very important, in my opinion, and it's awesome to be able to say that on Indiegogo there's no leakage. Leakage is essentially any pledge that has been made, but the money is not collected by the campaign owner. So if you guys are running a campaign, and I can, on day one of say like you guys, are running like a 40-day campaign, I contribute $100. During the next 40 days, the majority of the other crowdfunding platforms will not charge your card until the end of the campaign, or at least until your campaign's hit its goal. So between day 1 and day 40, I lose my debit card. I, change billing address. I entered in a wrong key when I first made the pledge. All of the different things that can come in. We find on average campaigns on other crowdfunding sites are losing between 5 to 15% to leakage. On Indiegogo, we process the contribution up front. It's not actually a pledge. It's not a promise to give this money when the campaign's done. It is, I am giving money to this campaign now because I believe in it. And although 45%, there was one film that, I don't know the name of the film, but they raised around 100 grand on Kickstarter, and they ended up coming after they got everything back. I want to say they had like a little in like the $55,000 range after the fees and the leakage. So they had to start another campaign on Indiegogo to make up for the money that they lost due to the leakage and the higher fees on the other crowdfunding platforms.
Wow. So to reiterate what's happening here, so we see it all the time. It literally happens every single time with a Kickstarter project. It's just sort of part of the deal where your project will end, and then over the next few days, Kickstarter will send you several messages saying that you've got X number of pledges that didn't come through because of a declined card, or for some reason that money did not get sent in that you counted towards your goal. In a lot of cases, that will be resolved, and they'll change their expiration date on the card, and then you'll end up getting the money. But in a lot of cases, those $35 pledges, that $1,000 pledge, sometimes they just never come in. So you'll be high-fiving that you made 15 grand, and you walk away with 14,200 or something. So that's what we're talking about here, and it's a very real thing. It happens all the time. So it's a really big deal that that doesn't happen with Indiegogo.
Yeah, there's absolutely none. We take the payment up front. If it's a fixed funding campaign, we hold on to it. If you don't reach your target on the fixed funding campaign, we return it to your contributors. There's no, it just doesn't make sense for us to to not take that money up front and hold on to it and have the campaigner lose money, and then for us to charge fees on top of that is just a little bit silly. And I like to say that I think we definitely come out on front as far as the way that we process our payments.
Yeah, there's definitely some real considerations there for somebody that is literally trying to collect money so they can fund their next album.
Right.
It'll be great to be able to highlight those and make sure people understand that. Now, let's switch gears for a little bit and sort of talk about how you interact with your clients. So on Kickstarter, for example, you don't even, a project creator doesn't even necessarily have to have an actual person put their eyeballs on the project. They have a automated process that deals
Yep.
with that. And Pledge Music, they definitely say that one of their big advantages is that they give you a team that they help you design the project and this and that, so you know that it's gone through their process. Tell us about how Indiegogo deals with their customers and helps them out.
Yeah, so we have a really, really hands-on customer support team. We call it our customer happiness team. But in the music department, alone, with myself, we have the rest of the people that are on my team. We have campaign specialists that if you come to us with a music-related question, either through me, through the Indiegogo Music Twitter, which I believe is just at Indiegogo Music, however it is that you get a hold of us, and my email is right on that Twitter handle, by the way. So it's very easy to get a hold of somebody here. We have 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, customer happiness agents like on call, ready to roll. In the event that you have a question, music related, not music related, technically speaking, there's going to be somebody there to answer your questions. We know that a lot of people. Crowdfunding is such a new industry. It's like, I think we started the industry in 2008, so it'll be 7 years old in January this year. So 6.5 plus a couple months. Most people have only run 1 or 2 campaigns. Well, most people have run no campaigns, but the majority of people who have crowdfunded don't necessarily run multiple campaigns. So we have like 7,000 plus campaigns live on the site at any given time. We like to think that we know what we're doing here pretty well. I think that having somebody there to answer these questions and make sure that you have the best experience that you possibly can it's silly not to offer that, but at the end of the day, it's very, very great that a lot of our competitors don't, because it makes my job a lot easier. That being said, yeah, so there's always going to be somebody there. Like, I like to say, like, you're never going to find any more love on another crowdfunding platform than you would on Indiegogo. There's always going to be somebody here, because we really do care about our contributors and our campaign owners. It's a new industry that we're creating, and I think that it requires crowdfunding requires the crowd to be involved, and the best way to build a crowd is by having it built around something that they like and that they enjoy doing.
So do you work with people explicitly during project creation when they write in and ask for that, or?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have all the time somebody from our customer happiness team will phone me and say, "Hey, Garrett, this person wrote about music stuff. Like, here you go, cool." And it's like, then I reach out and say, "How you doing? Shoot me a campaign draft. Let me look over it. Make sure all your T's are crossed and I's are dotted." Beyond that, if it's fun because we're creating an industry. There's really and because we're an open platform, there's no real bad ideas yet. I'm sure there are bad ideas, but generally speaking, it allows us to, for instance, I had a campaigner. They did great. They did better than they expected. They said, "Who am I going to get to print all these T-shirts up?" And so I said, "Oh, I have a buddy who owns a merch company." Put them in touch that way. So it's nice to have a music-focused team. In addition to all of the other resources that having Indiegogo as not just a music crowdfunding platform, because we are able to reach a much larger audience by not being niche. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's great to have somebody who knows what you're looking for underneath the umbrella of this just global reach that I think the other platforms don't necessarily offer.
Awesome. Well, I think this has been really informative. I know that a couple of these takeaways have really piqued my interest.
They've opened my eyes, man.
Opened my eyes to the Indiegogo world, but they are really legitimate reasons to take a good long look at going with Indiegogo. So we definitely need to get you back on here and talk about some other music-related crowdfunding stuff, because I think you have a wealth of knowledge that could be really actionable and help artists with their campaign. So
Well, let's do it. I mean, yeah, and I always like to say, end of the day, like, there's tons of places for you to crowdfund. I think that, reasons to go with us. Obviously, I work for Indiegogo, so that's my number one. No, I'm just kidding. But we no, there's at the end of the day, if you're doing it for the money, um, you're going to bring home more money on Indiegogo than you will anywhere else. We have significantly lower fees. We have multiple funding options. We have, our payment processors have a much larger reach than the majority of the other platforms. Beyond that, if you're looking to have a good experience, it's like our number one thing. We have the gold standard in customer service as far as crowdfunding platforms go. Trust and safety, we have this like insane team that makes sure that everything's legit on all fronts. So, like, if you're only going to do it once, you might as well do it with us, because I think that you're going to have the best experience here, and you're going to make the most money.
All right, that sounds great. Well, Garrett, we really appreciate you coming on today. I think you've taught musicians a lot about what you have to offer, and we'll look forward to talking to you another time.
Hey, thanks, guys. It was good chatting, and yeah, let's do it again.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Garrett. Bye-bye.
Cool.